The modern Rolex Air King makes no sense whatsoever. Or does it? It was originally a simple time-only watch intended for pilots around World War II, hence the name Air King, but is now designed to resemble an analog gauge from a supersonic car that Rolex partnered with in the mid-2000s. Yes, I said car, not jet or airplane, and that car has been trying to break the land speed record for nearly 2 decades. The newest Air King is still time-only, but now has a dial with more digits than an Omega reference number. However, even with its odd history, the newest iteration of the Air King is probably one of my favorite modern Rolexes. Let me tell you why. The Air King has seen a few iterations since its 1945 debut, but the one that sticks out in my mind is the reference 14000 that was produced from 1989 to 1999. And with a lot of neo-vintage Rolexes, they're fairly common. In fact, I see them quite a bit on people aiming to discreetly rock a Rolex without, being too flashy. Unfortunately, that type of Air King no longer exists, but fear not, if you're into this vibe, Rolex's Oyster Perpetual now fits nicely into that slot and comes in a handful of colors and sizes. In 2016, Rolex released the Air King reference 116900, and the design was nothing like any other Air King before it. In fact, it didn't really resemble any Rolex from ever. The dial at least didn't. Turns out the inspiration for this dial came from Rolex's partnership with the Bloodhound SSC project that started back in 2006. Their goal was to break the land speed record and go a mind-boggling 1,000 miles per hour. That has yet to happen, and they haven't broken any records yet, but hey, they're still actually trying, but I don't think Rolex is still a partner. Now, when they were a partner, Rolex designed a few cockpit instruments that were actually in that supersonic car, and there you have it. They put that design on the 2016 Air King's dial. Even with this design, the Air King isn't completely without its connection to its pilot's watch history, because the dial is actually quite aviation themed. It legit looks like a pilot's watch, it just wasn't inspired by one. I get it, Rolex loves records and adventure and being the watch associated with them, but the watch is named the Air King and was originally marketed towards World War II pilots. The name Air King has nothing to do with breaking the land speed record or anything on land. Nonetheless, at Watches and Wonders 2022, Rolex doubled down on the design and released the reference 126900, which is what I got to spend some time with. Rolex is really good at making reasonably sized watches with at least 100 meters of water resistance that somehow straddle the line between casual, sporty, and even dressy. But this iteration embraces sporty. It can be worn otherwise, but still, I think it's more sporty. Of course, you can wear your watches however you'd like, but the Air King's case shape is now the same as the GMT Master 2, with its sharper lines, flatter sides, and surprise, crown guards, something we've never seen on an Air King or any Rolex without a functional bezel. It's 40 millimeters in diameter and is reasonably thin with a depth of a little less than 12 millimeters. When it came out, my initial thought was that the Air King is just making less and less sense and has strayed even further away from its roots, but when you take away all the history and just look at the watch, I actually dig it. Look, Rolex is known for making minuscule changes when they update their watches, which leads to a very consistent design language throughout many, many years. A Submariner from 50 years ago doesn't look drastically different from a modern one. That is not the case with the Air King. The glossy black dial with its lume-filled 3, 6, and 9 numerals, along with the printed white numbers resembling the instrument gauge on the Bloodhound SSC, is quite the departure from the simple sticks found on the reference 14000. You also get your typical typeface when it comes to the Rolex branding, but on the Air King it is green and it matches the green seconds hand. Right above that, you'll find a gold crown, and around the 6 o'clock position is where you'll see Air King printed in its original typeface. There's a lot going on, but the black canvas with the pops of green and gold along with the numbers makes this a truly unique Rolex that I actually find a lot more interesting than the standard icons like the Daytona or GMT Master 2s. It's unintentionally fun, unlike the almost cartoony celebration dial found on the newer Oyster Perpetuals. It's sporty, but still classy and kind of odd. It's a weird combination of things that somehow just works. The Oyster bracelet is a brushed affair with a nice taper that leads to an Oyster lock folding clasp that includes an Easy Link extension. All this does is allows you to easily extend the bracelet 5mm for when your wrist expands in the heat. The movement is Rolex's very own caliber 3230 with 70 hours of power and is a superlative chronometer, which means it's really accurate. This one only gained a little more than a second per day. The movement was first introduced in 2020, but Rolex has proven throughout the years that they make extremely reliable movements, so I'm assuming that this thing will last longer than me if properly maintained. The watch was standard comfortable on my wrist. I haven't really worn many watches that are actually uncomfortable, but my one gripe is that it wears kind of flat, giving you a slight dinner platey look. And my wrist is not small at 7.25 inches, so if you're smaller wristed, definitely keep this in mind or try one on before purchasing. All in all, the current Air King doesn't really make too much sense based off its history, but I still like it. For a brand known for incremental changes to their popular watches, the Air King is a massive departure from that ethos. It's a true oddball, which Rolex has very few of, and it isn't trying too hard. It still looks great in almost any occasion, and it will last you a lifetime. It's a great watch.